What's up, guys? Hey, if you watched my last video, then you already know that last week I bought a brand new 890 Adventure R from Fay Myers, my favorite dealership here in the Denver area. And even on the way home, I had mentioned that I was going to do a lot of stuff to this bike. I had big plans for this bike. And before I even picked it up, I had already ordered a new exhaust for it. The new exhaust came in today, and it's time to get that sucker installed. So I bought a Aero cat delete pipe and an Aero titanium slip-on. Looks awesome. I think it's going to save a ton of weight, and I'm sure it's going to sound a whole lot better than the current state of the bike, right? So there is a little bit that goes into removing this cat and putting a new one on. I'm gonna do a video here on how to remove the old exhaust and put the new one on. And I hope you like the video. If you're liking it so far, please give me a big thumbs up. It really helps get me into the algorithm. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing that. Hit that notification bell too, so you get notified when I put out new content. Okay, without further ado, let's get this old exhaust off and get the new one on. The first thing that we have to do is we've got to remove the skid plate, okay? Now, the factory skid plate comes with 4 bolts on the front here, 8mm bolts. And I hope I can get a shot of this underneath. There are also 2 bolts, one here and one here. There are 3 additional bolts that may be here. This one does not have it. If there are, you do not have to remove those. The bolts that hold the skid plate on are 8mm bolts, all 6 of them. Okay, I've got these pre-loosened already. Just gonna take them out of here. And then I will leave one just kind of threaded in a little bit so that when I get the bottom ones out, there's something just kind of holding it in a little bit there, right? Remove these 2 guys underneath. They actually come out fairly easily. Now, this is a brand new bike, so I've got that going for me as well. Okay, so you do not have to take out the bolts that hold this plastic portion that goes around the tank here out, but I do suggest you loosen them either right now when you're taking off the skid plate or before you put the skid plate back on, and I'll go into why that is in just a minute here. And these bolts on this cover here, there's 3 of them. They are T27s, okay? And all I'm gonna do is, they're just plastic. Well, they're metal bolts, but they're into a plastic keeper. I'm just gonna loosen them up a little bit. 3 on this side and 3 on the other side. All right, now that I've got those loosened, I'm just gonna finish taking this bolt the rest of the way out. And pull straight down on the skid plate, and it will come off. Now, the reason that I say to loosen up these bolts on the plastic cover here around the skid plate is because you can see here, it's got these little rubber fingers here, okay? And what they do is, when you put it back up onto the bike, those rubber fingers go into the groove here on the gas tank, okay? Now, if you take these guys completely off, it makes it really hard to put them back on once the skid plate is already mounted, okay? And if they are attached firmly, it also makes it hard. So if you just have them nice and loose, put it back up in there, put the bolts back in the skid plate, and then you can tighten these guys down, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the silencer or the muffler or the slip-on, whatever you want to call it, okay? And that's really easy. To do that, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen up the clamp that's attached from the slip-on to the catalytic converter, all right? And that is a T40 Torx. Just going to get it in there and loosen it up. Nice and loose. And I'm going to take the bolt all the way out of the clamp. I'll show you the clamp in a second. It's a very common style of clamp nowadays, and you've probably seen it. The next thing we're going to remove is the top clamp that holds the can onto the frame, and that is a T50 Torx. Make sure that when you do this though, that you hold on to the bottom of the pipe, because it is going to come loose after that. Okay? Get that guy out of there. And the pipe is just going to slide away. And I'm going to put this away for safekeeping because, you know, when I sell the bike, I may end up keeping the new exhaust. Who knows? All right, so now that we've got the slip-on removed, this is where we get into some more of the more advanced portion of the procedure here, okay? It's not a big deal, but we do have to do a few things. Like one, we have to remove the shift rod. We have to remove the counter shaft cover. We're going to have to take a few bolts out of the kickstand, and we're going to have to loosen the swing arm bolt on the frame, okay? All right, first thing I'm going to do is remove this shift lever bolt here. And now all of these, the shift lever bolt and the counter shaft sprocket cover are T30s, okay? Just going to spin this guy off, move it up out of the way. And then I will put, I will blue Loctite these guys all back on when I put them back on again. All right, and then we're going to take off the counter shaft sprocket cover. Oh, I thought, yeah, that was T30, okay. And I think this has 3 bolts on it. There's 1. 2. And then the third one is under here, and that's why we had to take the shift lever off to make room to get into that bolt, okay? Spin that guy out. And then our counter shaft sprocket cover will just kind of come out like that. Now, one thing that I have heard is that these load up really bad with dirt and gunk and stuff like that. So this bike has 80 miles on it, and it's already got a little bit of grease from the chain slung on it, assembly grease and stuff like that. So you can see why it would load up pretty bad. I'm going to buy probably a Van Esch case saver, billet case saver for it. But you know, whatever, that's a couple weeks down the road. So I'm just going to put these bolts in here, keep them nice and safe, put this away. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to remove we're going to loosen the bolt that holds the swing arm, okay? And then we're going to remove the 3 screws that that bolt the kickstand to the frame, okay? So the swing arm bolt is a T55. And unfortunately, I don't have a 3/8 drive, a 1/2-inch drive T55 Torx, so I have to use the 1/4-inch drive with this small breaker bar, but that wasn't too bad, okay? And then we're going to take out the 3 kickstand bolts here, and they are T45s. I'm just gonna loosen these guys up. One, 2. Actually, there may only be 2. I thought there was 3. That third one, see if I can't get you a picture of it here. The third one is right here. You have to move the chain out of the way to get to it, okay? Get that out of there. And then the kickstand will just kind of fall away. Got that out of the way. So now that we've got the rear set kind of up out of the way here, you know, movable out of the way, we're going to take off these 2 bolts here, and these are T40s, all right? So everything's a little bit different. Definitely want to have a full set of Torx to do this job. I'm just going to spin this guy out. And I believe there's a spacer So this one has a spacer on it. You're definitely going to want to keep that on the bolt. And then this top one, we'll remove that. And we should, I think, be able to pull the cat out from there. Okay, yeah, I did miss one thing. There is another bolt back here that connects to the cat. So in order to get to there, you have to take off these two bottom bolts that hold your right side rear set on. Okay. And of course, in case I forget to say it later, always make sure that you put some Loctite back on these guys before you reassemble stuff, all right? There's a spacer behind the right side that you need to make sure you don't forget about. So I am going to remove the swing arm bolt, because this side should just be the cap. This whole thing will pull up and out of the way. Okay, and then you can see this bolt right here. That has to come out, and then that cap will just kind of pull right out of there. One. Yeah, they don't make it incredibly easy to get to, that's for sure. Okay. And this guy just slipped right up from underneath. And there's your catalytic converter. Ooh, that sucker's heavy. Okay, well, now that we've got the catalytic converter out, let's do a little bit of, take a little bit of weight measurements. So this cat weighs 6.45 pounds. That's not really too terrible. I'm kind of surprised. And the Arrow cat delete pipe weighs 2.7. Okay, so 6.45, let's just say 6.5, 2.5, we're looking at a 4 pound weight saving. A little less than 4 pounds just with removing the catalytic converter and putting the cat delete pipe on. Now let's see if we can't get a weight on the new Arrow exhaust. And this exhaust is 5.1 pounds, so we'll say 5 pounds. This is 8 pounds, so 3 pounds lighter for the slip-on and 4 pounds lighter for the cat. So we're looking at an 8 pound saving. That's not something to laugh at. I mean, that's a pretty good weight reduction right there. Okay, one thing you want to make sure and do, if you didn't order a new gasket, I did, take the old gasket off of the cat that you took out and make sure you put that old gasket on the outlet side of your cat decat pipe. Okay, so you're going to want to put this clip on the tang here for the cat delete pipe, because that's what the bolt is going to screw into to secure it to the frame. When you have the pipe like this, with the collector facing towards you, you're going to put the clip on with the threads facing away from you, okay? I'm just going to push it on there. And it'll sit in there like so, okay? Now, there should still be a gasket from the header pipe where you took the cat off. So that, you know, just make sure it's still there, but it should be, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to use the same clamp that came off of the old one. And all I'm going to do is kind of pre-fit it around the head pipe, because they are kind of a pain to get started once it's off of the bike. All right, getting there. So I was finally able to get that clamp on at the bottom of the cat where it connects to the head pipe. A little bit of a pain in the butt, but no big deal. All right. So next thing we're going to do is put on the slip-on. Okay. Take the original clamp, put it on the pipe. Put the slip-on there. If I forget to mention it, make sure before you fire the bike up that you clean this thing off with like some Windex or something, contact cleaner, something really good to get all the grease from your hands off, or else you're going to end up those spots. Now I have not tightened the clamps up on either the top or the bottom yet. What I'm going to do is just kind of snug this down so it sits where I want it. That's about good. And then I'll tighten up these clamps. Nice and snug. Now I'll snug the mounting tab on the other side down. All right. So now everything exhaust wise is installed and tightened. Okay. Before I put everything back together, I'm going to want to start the bike and check for any sort of exhaust leaks. But before I do that, I'm going to clean this can up real nice to make sure that I don't have any oil or grease stains left on it from my fingers. So I cleaned the can off really well with some Windex and a rag. Started it up. I don't have any leaks, which is awesome. So now I got to put everything back together, reverse order of how you took it apart. Put it all back together, and then I will get back with you. We'll start it up, see what it sounds like. It so far sounds pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. But yeah, let me get started on putting everything back together then. So I got everything put back together. All I did was just go in the reverse order of how I took everything apart. I cleaned up the can and the pipe really, really well to make sure that there was no fingerprint oil or grease on there that would discolor when it got hot. Fired it up. Sounds far better than the stock pipe. I was able to get it out on the road for just a few minutes when the weather started coming in, and as you can see, I will not be taking it out for any adventure rides in the near future, but that's okay. It still looks really good. I'm really happy with it. Now, it wasn't quite loud enough for me, so I did remove the dB killer in the back of the silencer, and it's a really easy process to do. Really, the only thing you have to do is take a small little screwdriver and knock out the little clip that's in there, that's put there so that you can't compress the C-clip. But once you get rid of that, you just compress the C-clip, pull it out, and then pull the dB killer straight out of the can, and it works great. So this is what the bike sounded like with the KTM exhaust on there. This is what it sounded like with the Aero exhaust with the baffle still in. And this is what it sounds like with the baffle removed. So much better, so much better. I really dig the sound, man. So, in my opinion, without the baffle is the best. It sounds really great, throaty and deep, and it really sounds good, man. So that's it. Removing the old exhaust system and putting on a new Aero DCAT and the Aero titanium exhaust, and how to remove the baffle if you choose to do so. A reminder, this bike is now for off-road use only. I would never ride it on the street because that would be illegal. Just know that if you remove your catalytic converter, that you are not allowed to ride your bike on the street. And we're always going to follow the rules. So thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, please give me a great big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so that you get notified anytime I put out new content. Have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you guys out on the trail.